And it's Ken Kraetzer coming from University of Buffalo tonight after the win by the hometown Buffalo Bulls in overtime. Dramatic 23-20 win over the Army Black Knights. A game that Army had a 20-6 lead into the fourth quarter, seemed to be dominating, seemed to be in control. And then the Buffalo Bulls seemed to have a second wind and got their passing game going. Army started making mistakes, some penalties, a chop block, out of bounds hit, and pass interference plays. Turnovers tonight, which we had not seen in any of the three games before this year. An interception, a fumble. Pitch fumble to Jordan Asbury. A couple Army players got hurt in the game too. 4 injuries that we saw, hopefully all minor. And but to me, it looked like a team that kind of ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. Very emotional 2-week period for this team since the passing of Brandon Jackson, and they all had been playing their hearts out. We saw that last week at Texas El Paso, but. With the funeral on Monday, I think this team just, the pace of play, 2 games in a row on the road, it doesn't have, it all adds up to a situation where the fourth quarter really got to be tough. We had been kind of concerned about this happening earlier this year, but Army had played so strong in the 3 prior games, really holding on to leads very well. But today it just it didn't happen, and a team that will now get a break, a well-deserved break, bye week before they get a real challenging game down at Duke. But a game that's much more interesting perhaps than we thought it would be going in. And that could be the toughest game on the schedule for Army, even thinking about Notre Dame now down in November in San Antonio. But let's go over the game a little bit. Army got off on a lead on a 15-yard Jordan Asbury run. Beautiful play, pitch play. But Army's starting kicker, Mitchell Howard, got hurt covering the opening kickoff. And we've talked to Coach Monk, and he was very frustrated about the coverage of that play that required the kicker to get involved and get hurt. Blake Wilson came in, had a couple of field goals, a couple extra points, but then at the end of the game, he missed 2 field goal attempts, one at the end of the game, one at the end of regulation, then one at the end of overtime. But he had the PAT there. Then he had a 21-yard field goal in the second quarter. So Army had a 10-0 lead at the half. And seemed to be very much in control of the game, dominated the statistics in the first half, held UB to 87 yards of offense in the first half. And then in the third quarter, UB got on the scoreboard on a short field drive after a turnover from Army. And Tyree Jackson scored on a 1-yard run. That is the quarterback for Buffalo. And Adam Mitchison, who had kicked the game winner later, had that particular kick missed. So Army had a 10-6 lead. Blake Wilson had a 38-yard field goal in the third quarter. So Army had a 13-6 lead, and then Army went on a 62-yard drive with some excellent plays. Ahmad Bradshaw had a 38-yard run in that drive, and ran 2 consecutive 5-yard runs to complete the drive. So Army had a 20-6 lead that went into the fourth quarter. Then that's about when University of Buffalo seemed to gain their second win, seemed to get their passing game. Their quarterback seemed to have the game slow down for him. He started making some of his touch passes, and they were able to do a 66-yard drive, one very long pass completion in that drive, and a 5-yard pass from Jackson to Cam Holsey of Buffalo. And that made the score 20-13. Tyree Wilson, a 1-yard run with 3:47 left to go. with an Adam Mitchison point after touchdown, made it 20-20. And Army had a chance. They went the length of the field and just had a field goal missed by Blake Wilson. He was iced twice by Buffalo, 2 timeouts called, and just missed. The people on the field said he just was a fraction left on that field goal attempt. And then in overtime, Army got stopped on their possession, and then Buffalo moved the ball in to the 9-yard line and kicked a field goal, 33 yards by Adam Mitchison. So final 23-20 in overtime here in Buffalo. A good game to watch, certainly for the hometown fans, about 19,000 people here. And just going over some of the key statistics on the game, we see Army at 396 yards rushing. As Coach Monken said, that's only impressive if you win. But that'll put Army very close to number 1 in the entire NCAA in rushing. But again, they kind of lost it in the fourth quarter when they really just ran out of gas. Buffalo had just 87 yards rushing. And so on the day, Army had 444 yards of offense. UB was held to 265, but they made the yardage when it counted at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. And just looking at some of the other key stats, just looking at time of possession, Army 36 minutes versus 24 for Buffalo. But really a difference in the game. Looking at third down conversions, Army was 6 of 17, Buffalo was 7 of 15. Army was, on fourth down was 4 of 6, and was 2 of 4 on field goals. And Army had on turnovers, each team had 1 interception, and Buffalo had 1 fumble recovery. So 2 turnovers for Army really cost them in this one. Penalties in the game, Army had 8 penalties for 83 yards, Buffalo 5 for 35. Very unusual. I just think it's a sign, turnovers, penalties, and Coach Monken said missed tackles, missed coverages, a sign of a tired team after this particular week. And so I think you have to say that, on a playing basis, they had a very successful September, 3 wins out of 4 games. And certainly just a terrible tragedy that was suffered Brandon Jackson's passing. I think they really will benefit from having this bye week chance to get back on track and get working on school, and also getting back to practicing some fundamentals, which I'm sure Coach Monken will be working on this week. Just look at some of the rushing. Ahmad Bradshaw really led Army's rushing game with 134 yards, 5.7 a carry. Andy Davidson, 81 yards. Kel Walker at 59. And Jordan Asbury, 42 on the day. He and Kel Walker were really working the pitch outs nicely. It's just the one ball that Jordan Asbury didn't quite expect and got burned on that one. Passing Ahmad Bradshaw had 36 yards, 3 of 8, which really is kind of a struggle because Army can't afford to miss those very often because it creates the long first or second down plays. And so Christian Poe, Ahmad Bradshaw, Jeffy Jeckham, and Kel Walker all had catches today. There was one play where they did an option pass by Joe Walker, the senior. He went to the right. Ahmad Bradshaw, after giving the handoff, went to the left, went out, and received a pass for, I think it was about a 7 or 8 yard gain. On the Buffalo side, their quarterback, Tyree Jackson, rushed for 34 yards, but they never really got their rushing game going. 87 yards, but passing, Jackson was 20 of 31, 1 interception, 178 yards on the game, 1 TD. Not the best statistics in the world, but enough to win the game. They 20 completions. Mason Schreck had 5 of them. They had a punt 4 times, and but it really came down to the field goal by Adam Mitchson, 33 yards at the end of the game. Blake Wilson missed the field goal 34 yards at the end of regulation and 43 yards in overtime. I'm sure he's going to feel disappointed. But he played well. I mean, he came in, wasn't expected to play. Mitchell Howard gets hurt on the first play of the game. And, it's amazing what happens. It comes down to a kick at the end of the game. So, anyway, that's the wrap-up here in Buffalo. And we'll look forward to being back. Have a little time off. We'll be at practice, get some interviews. So watch our page, West Point Football Report. Also check our Twitter at Suns Legion Radio. We'll have much more information. We'll go back up to West Point, do some interviews with some of the players that are starting to really make a name for themselves this year. Some new names. You look at Kel Walker, who's been playing very well. We know we've had a chance to talk with Tyler Campbell, who's had 53 yards today. And, I feel very good for Elijah St. Hilaire as a senior who I met last year, did an interview, and he's starting to get a little bit of playing time. He's one of those players who's worked his way up through the system from the scout team and making the travel team, and then getting a chance to be utilized in some important situations. And Ahmad Bradshaw continues to grow. Have to take a real look kind of at some of the plays at the end. But Army got caught on chop blocks twice in this game. Certainly penalties that hurt. There was a penalty for a hit out of bounds, which late in the game, which really hurt on a. So the penalties hurt. There's just so many little things that could have been the difference in this game. Army was only a couple plays away from winning this game. Certainly the kick, but some other plays that might have scored, created another score, or stopped Buffalo. So it's so close, but it's good to see Army being competitive. And they're all disappointed that they lost this game. Anyway, we'll wrap it up here from University of Buffalo. Nice to see the school. Very attractive place. A lot of modern buildings, beautiful landscaping. People out boating on the lake nearby. And the Army Alumni Association had a wonderful tailgate. Beforehand, we had folks from the American Legion here do a 21-gun salute during the national anthem. Folks from the members of the Erie County organization and some junior ROTC did the color guard, nice flag. And the University of Buffalo band did a wonderful armed services medley, singing the anthem of each branch of the military and asking the veterans to stand during their branch of services anthem. So again, overtime win, come from behind by the hometown Buffalo Bulls, 23-20 over the Army West Point Black Knights, and they'll be down at Duke in 2 weeks. So if you have a chance to get down to that one, and then they come home. They got a couple home games against Lafayette and the North Texas. That should be very interesting, very competitive games. And so the season will move on. A chance for Army to have a very successful season. They have to regain the momentum that they lost from tonight's loss, but bye week and the not so gentle encouragement sometimes I think of Coach Munkin will get this team back on track. So from the University of Buffalo, for Sons of the American Legion Radio and the West Point Football Report, this is Ken Kraetzer.